Hey guys, this is David Jelks from Factor 3 Fitness. Over the past 2 decades, I've had a great opportunity to really be able to research the field of human performance from quite a few different angles, from the psychology of fitness to neuromodulation to utilizing natural herbal products to support immunity and support recovery. The whole supplementation field is actually quite fascinating, to neurology, to how the brain and the muscles interact. And so within the past couple decades, I've come up to be able to offer you the answer to the question on how do I get into really good shape? How does it work? Well, my answer is it depends. And it depends on what, you may ask. Well, it really depends on lots of things. See, the challenge is that we're not dealing in absolutes when it comes to fitness. And really at the level that most people talk about fitness and fitness endeavors. At the level of diet, that when we're talking at a very surface level about simple calories and timing, well, does it work? Well, it depends. And what it depends on, of course, is a lot of factors. Sometimes we have a genetic predisposition to responding to one type of dietary behavior over another. Now that may go back as far as something called a polymorphism, and polymorphisms are just it's a unique way of how your genetics is set up. And there's a class of people that have similar genetic traits, right, which are not of the norm, but they're a small group of people within society will have these traits, and not to be confused with genetic mutations. Polymorphisms are just a unique way in which we respond to stimuli, right? Whether it's nutritional stimuli. So you may have a polymorphism, or a very unique way of actually digesting, processing food, or having an affinity for certain types of food over others. That's why you see people on the Atkins diet do exceptionally well, get great results. All their blood work is phenomenal, cholesterol levels are down, the brain's functioning high, the skin looks great, and they love it. And yet another person will try the same diet and not fare very well, feel very nauseous and lightheaded, and they may break out, and it just doesn't work for them. Because genetically we're a little bit different. So what is the right diet for achieving the ideal weight loss and fitness? Well, it depends. It depends on lots of things. And how about the strength training? What kind of strength training workout should I do to get my body where I want it to be? Well, it depends. All right. Again, we're talking about lots of variables here. It really depends, not so much on how old you are, which has some bearing. And the only reason why age really has a bearing on fitness capacity is that the longer we've been alive, the more opportunities we've had to either do things incredibly well or to screw a lot of things up. So the longer we're alive, generally we incur more injuries, more overuse injuries. Our connective tissue may not be as strong, but generally it's not the aging process that's the issue. It's what we do within the time that we have. So what is the best strength training program, to get you in really good shape? Well, it depends. And then the biggest variant when it comes to strength training really depends on, of course, the posture you come in with, your injury history, and your lifestyle behaviors before you show up. So all these variables should be taken into consideration to decide where you start. Your aspirations may to be a CrossFitter. But if I look at your history and look at your overall postural setup and look at your core strength and your strength of your rotator cuff and your range of motion of your joints, these are all big key factors in determining whether CrossFit's the best thing for you, or maybe Pilates should be the place where you need to start, right? Pilates, yoga, lots of stretching, lots of core work, and you may be required to spend months doing that to get your body ready to even conceive of doing something more dramatic and ballistic, like Olympic style work that you'll quite find in a CrossFit or in a high intensity interval training class. So it really depends. When we look at, of course, we talk about the dietary piece again. Of course, how do you start? Like, what do you work with? Well, it depends, right? Depends on what you're presently doing. If you have a dietary regime, that's not horrible, but it could really use some tightening up. And I suggest that we're going to do something abstractly very, very different. In fact, it's foods you've never consumed before. And if I make it too complicated, you're probably not going to follow it. So the best dietary regime is cleaning up the one that you have, making slight changes that don't incur a lot of a massive change inside your lifestyle. And quite often what we end up doing, of course, is supporting your diet with the supplementation, because we know that the modern food supply, we're malnourished because our food supply is malnourished. So supplementation is almost a absolute reality for the 21st century. And a lot of us are struggling with that whole process because we'd like to eat real food. Well, unfortunately, there's no such thing, right? Not in the manner that it was many, many years ago. And so many of us are so nutritionally bankrupt that eating real food, even at this stage of the game, isn't enough to give us a nutritional profile to bring our levels back up to baseline, right? So what is the best diet for supporting fitness and lean body mass? It depends, right? We look at cardiovascular training. What is the best cardiovascular training program to reduce fat stores and to improve cardiovascular fitness and heart and lung function? Well, it depends. Depends who you are orthopedically. So coming in with a bunch of joint problems, well, you can't run. Right? If you have some lower back problems, of course, impact doesn't work very well. If you have neck and shoulder issues, of course, running doesn't work either. Neither does the elliptical. You'll have to find things maybe more like a stair climber where you can vertically load your spine, but doesn't require a lot of flailing of the limbs and there's no impact. Again, if you have lower back problems, some disc compression, sitting on a bike, even though bikes are very low impact, they have a tendency to create some postural issues, which we see in spinning classes all the time. So what's the best cardio program? It depends. So really, a lot of it, and I hate to make this sound so vague, but it's not as simple as it looks. Really, the biggest place we need to start is actually cleaning up what's not working, rather than adding more stuff to the fray. So meaning that posture is really such a massive issue. And if you don't have really great posture and good control of your joints and really good stability in your joints, you're really going to have a very short shelf life. And no matter what you try to do, no matter how well your intentions, and it doesn't matter how hard you are willing to work, you're willing to bleed on the gym floor, it's irrelevant. If your posture won't support you, you just can't make it happen. So postural development is a massive thing. And I really suggest getting a postural assessment and a really good core stability assessment to see where you're at before you actually start pounding your joints into submission. And again, when it comes to the dietary piece, well, again, as I said, it depends. If we actually look at your diet as a whole and actually take what you're presently doing and make slight adjustments to what you're doing, a lot of it's combinations and timing, and then adding some supplementation to it to actually buffer up the nutritional profile, it'll probably go a long ways, and you're more likely to do that rather than eating something completely unique that you've never experienced before. The adherence to that would actually probably be slim and none. So the dietary component, well, it depends, right? It needs some thought. And then, of course, there's probably the biggest factor between how do you make all the stuff work? Well, it really depends what's going on from the neck up. The psychology around fitness really tends to be a really massive issue, right? Because why we do things is probably more important than the how. Because what the drivers behind why we want to get in shape, why we want to become strong, why we want to lose weight, the driving factors really create the vast majority of reasons why people fail. Because we don't understand the driving force behind our motivation to do it. Right? The driving force behind losing weight, if you're 40 pounds overweight and you want to lose that weight, the driving force behind that weight, if it's based on a poor self-image and insecurity that goes back as far as when you're 12 years old, the likelihood is that the 12-year-old is not going to adhere to it because they're too emotionally unstable. Right? Does it make sense? So it's a matter of the psychology around fitness and really bringing that to the forefront and making that very aware of why we're doing things and growing up these infantile emotions around, again, poor self-image and low self-worth. It's really something that's really well worth exploring, which is why when we created the Factor 3 program, we actually inserted something called the I Am Project, which we understood the psychology around who we are, what we think we're capable of, not what we're capable of, but what we think our perceptions of our capacity for success and for attainment of these goals is really what was in question. And I knew and we know, not I, but the industry at large, we know that where the mind goes, the body will follow. And so that we, I don't know how many years ago, 2006, I think, the I Am Project, we started to create it because we understood that the psychology around who we were, our self-perceptions, really became the key factor and ultimate success or ultimate failure. Because again, as I just stated, of course, around cardio, diet, and strength training and the various modalities around fitness, how does it work and which is the right one? Well, it depends. But if your psychology is strong and you're well, you have a great anchor point from which to come from, so your thought process is very clear, you're emotionally stable, and you're very focused in your mindset, you're willing to go through the effort it takes to figure it out. right? I came from a very poor lifestyle, right? Over 22 years ago, a very, very poor lifestyle. And guess what? I figured it out. I figured it out so much, I created a career out of it. I don't have all the answers. And of course, it's a foolish statement to even think I ever would. But I'm willing to figure it out because I know it depends. So when you're starting a fitness journey, whether you're in the middle of it or you're just beginning it, just remember there's lots of variation. And so get your mind very clear on what you want from it, why you want it, what is the ultimate objective, how it's going to impact your life as a whole in a real beneficial way. And then realize that, again, there's lots of variables and it really takes time. You really have to focus on educating yourself as you go through. And when we create a Factor 3, basically the program, it's really for anybody who's already on a fitness journey. If you're just starting and you're not really sure, then Factor 3 is probably not the program for you. But if you're already initiated a fitness journey and you're already started on the dietary piece and you're already in that mindset and you're wanting to take things to a whole different level and you're willing to learn, because it's an informational format. Yes, we provide all the training tools, we provide all the videos, the dietary outlines, all the mindset work. But what we're looking for is people that want to know, how does it work? Because after all, it's your responsibility, because it's your physiology, it's your life, not mine. Our objective is not to create codependency, but we want strong, educated, powerful leaders in the fitness industry that can really go through and role model exactly what this stuff looks like. And if you don't got it here, you'll never have it here, right? So, and again, that's just the kind of the long and short of it. And it's just my opinion. It's certainly not the truth. So take from my message what you want, leave the rest behind, and I always welcome your comments.